So hello everyone, I am Brianne Rossett, the Office and Events Coordinator here at the Small Business Center. I would like to introduce our first speaker today, or no, our only speaker today, sorry. She is Jenny Chandler. She is from Simple Desk. She's actually the owner. And she's here to kind of help us understand bookkeeping for either a sole proprietor or a self-employed business. I just want to remind everyone to just keep your microphones off. If you have any questions at all, please use the little chat box on the bottom there. And if you have any questions, she'll answer them throughout the presentation. So I'll have her stop and she can answer your questions as we go through one by one through the slides. All right, and here is Jenny.
Morning, everyone. So I'm Jenny and I own a company called Simple Desk. We're small business support. So we do bookkeeping, social media, anything administration, and we're located in Trenton. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start the presentation. Okay, so Okay, welcome to Simplified Bookkeeping. So the first important decision to make when you're setting up your bookkeeping is whether to make your accounting process cash or accrual based. So cash based is recording the transactions as the money comes in or as you spend it. Accrual is basically you have, when your bills come in, they're recorded in your accounting system, even if they aren't paid yet. So record income as your bill, your customers are form of accounts receivable, record expenses the same way, billed in the form of accounts payable. So we're gonna go ahead with cash accounting because for most sole proprietors and self-employed, it's much more simple to stay on top of, and you don't need anything that robust for your company because you don't have as many transactions. So we'll just jump right into categorizing your transactions. So these are the different account types. I'm sure you're probably familiar with most of them. So when you have your expenses, well, most of your stuff will come in under business income, which is any money you've made will just be categorized as income. And then from there, all your expenses will be categorized under one of these account types. So advertising is pretty self-explanatory. Any of your Facebook ads or marketing materials that you've done, your meals and entertainment, they're only you're only able to get 50% back on that. So anything you buy for meals, for meetings and things like that, you can keep your receipts and write those off as meals and entertainment, but you do need to keep a log as to who you met with and what it was that you were discussing. Bad debts, so that's just people who haven't paid, so you're writing off an amount that you never received. Your insurance is pretty explanatory, and your interest in bank fees, so anything you pay for interest on your credit card or bank fees out of your business account, anything like that would fall under that category. Business taxes and licenses, so that's like your business license and any taxes you had to pay out for your business. Office expenses is a pretty big one. It's kind of like a catch-all. So anything you need for the office would go under office expenses. And then your office supplies. So that is your pens and paper, things like that. Professional fees, legal and accounting. So these are professionals that you've hired to help you out. So if you hired a marketer to help you with launching a campaign, that is a professional fee, and that would go under professional fees. If you had to hire a lawyer to write up some legal documents of any for something going on in your business, that would fall under that category as well as your accountant for taxes at the end of the year. Management and admin fees. So those are just fees you have to pay for anything related to your business that you would have to pay designations for. That's probably won't be using that one too much. Rent, pretty self-explanatory. So repairs and maintenance. So anything that would cover anything you had to repair, like in the office, or if you had machinery that you used that need to be maintained, or the parts for it, that would go under there. Salaries, wages, and benefits, that's anything to do with paying employees. So even that's your contribution to the payroll taxes, that's the money you've paid them as well. Property taxes, most of you probably don't own the building that you're using for your business, so you probably wouldn't use that one, but if you do pay property taxes, that's where it would go. Travel expenses. So travel expenses would be anything you use that you pay out when you have to travel somewhere for business. That doesn't include your gas and mileage, that is separate. Utilities, pretty explanatory, I would think. So your hydro, your internet, your phone bill, anything you use for your business. And fuel costs, that's not for your vehicle, that's related to anything business that you would use it for. You're probably not going to use that one too much. And then delivery, freight, and express. So anything you pay for a delivery. And your motor vehicle expenses, that's a category you use for everything to do with the vehicle that you're using and collecting mileage on. We'll go over that a bit more in the next few slides. And then they have an other expenses, which I generally use for like my training that I've paid for, online courses, anything that you need for your business but doesn't have a specific category would go under other expenses.
So Jenny, we've got a few questions.
Okay.
So does payroll expenses include paying for subcontractors?
No. Subcontractors are separate, and they do ask you that separately on your taxes, so that needs to be kept separate.
All right, and we have a couple other questions. Is fuel for a rental car away?
Fuel for a rental car?
Yeah, for travel expenses.
Yeah, that would be travel expenses.
And what examples of management and admin? Like, what are some examples?
So if you had, if you were a therapist and you had to pay a fee to keep your designation, so like you have to keep your designation to be able to practice, you would have to pay an admin fee or a management fee. That would be covered there.
So what is fuel for then? Thanks.
Fuel costs?
Yes.
So if you had a company that maybe ran something on oil, or a machine that ran on gas, that would be covered under fuel costs. Anything for your actual vehicle though, like just for driving, is under motor vehicle, but fuel cost is for something separate. It's kind of a niche category.
Like a farm kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So if there's a farm, there's tractors kind of thing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and that's it for now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what your T2125 looks like. most people will never see this because nobody does paper transactions anymore. But these are just a list of the categories. And this is what the government asks for on your taxes as a breakdown of what you've spent in your business. So basically, it's just laying out the same categories that we just went over. Actually, give me 1 second here. So there's some in here that I didn't have listed in the other, which is your capital costs. So your capital costs are anything that you've purchased. Like if you purchased a machine, you aren't able to write off the full amount of that machine in 1 year. There is, it's 20% per year. So you do need to calculate that separately. So any large furniture or machines, or even if you bought a building, which I don't believe any of you would, that would go under capital costs. So if you've made large purchases, that's where it will go. And that would be something that your accountant would figure out the total at the end of the year. You just need to keep it separate. Okay, so that's okay, so I'm going to go over your business use of home expenses because most sole proprietors or self-employed people do work from home. So the rule is, I believe 50% of the business has to be run from your home for you to use the business, for you to be able to write off the expenses of your home. So it's you can use your personal expenses in here. Give me 1 second. So you're entitled to deduct some of the costs, and there is an actual calculation that we go through and show how to do that. Give me 1 second. Okay, so these are the expenses that you'd be able to use for business use of home. It's pretty straightforward. Your heat, electricity, insurance, anything you've done on the home. So you can't write off your mortgage payments, only the interest you've paid on your mortgage, as well as your property taxes. So, but if you do rent your home or your apartment where you're working, so you can put in your rent and you are eligible for a piece of that amount. So I'm just going to go.
I have a question here. She says, does this rule apply if we are incorporated or if we rent office space?
If you rent office space, it's not business use of home, it's just rent. And everything that you pay for your office space is under your regular categories. Business use of home doesn't apply to you at all. I hope that answers that. Yeah, and if you're incorporated, no, that wouldn't be, because you would be using your rent and the regular accounts instead of the business use of home.
I have another one that says, unless you're also use your home space. Unless you also use your home space, question mark.
If you're using both, you can, as long as you're using 50% of your home space, like using it 50% of the time for your business. Okay, so how much can you deduct? So
sorry, before you get into that one, sorry, there was another question. I thought I was on mute, or it wasn't on mute.
Okay.
I have to work from home for COVID, and we have been deemed essential. So why can't we close? No, why?
I
don't understand. I'm sorry.
If there is a new tax deduction that covers you working from home, if you were sent home to work, then you still can use your business use of home expenses on your taxes, but you're not technically self-employed but it is a personal tax write-off now. Does that answer that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm just going to move on, and if it comes back, then we'll.
Yeah, we can always open up the floor at the very end, and you guys can ask all these questions as well if you want to at the very end. Okay, guys?
Okay, so the CRA allows you to deduct a portion of the expenses of your home. So this is because the majority of the costs associated with running your home and personal expenses. So the CRA will request the square footage of your home that is used for the business and the entire square footage of your home. So there's a little example here. So basically, if you have 9 rooms and you use 1 room for your business, you know, they do a calculation here as to what percentage that is. And you just, this is again the paper form, which nobody's probably using, but it just is very, it helps you understand what you can deduct and how they process it. So basically they take the full square footage of your home, say that's 1,000, you use 10%. So that's, sorry, you use 100 square feet, and then they make that into a calculation here. And so your ratio is 17.36%, they have written here. And then you can put in all your deductions or your expenses that came in. And at the bottom, it will tell you how much is allowable. So you don't actually have to do all the calculations yourself. You just need to know the square footage of your home and all the expenses you used during the year. Okay, so vehicle mileage. So if you use a vehicle for your business, you're going to be keeping all your receipts for your fuel, your maintenance, your parking, like your registration. And if you have a loan on that vehicle, all the interest that you paid during the year, you'll want to keep that as well, because that is part of the vehicle mileage deduction. Okay, so there's a lot of words in here. Okay, so what I use is I actually have an app on my phone that shows, sorry. I use QuickBooks Self-Employed, and it comes with a mileage app. The mileage app is actually on my phone and runs in the background like 24/7. And so when I go anywhere, I can just go into my app and I can say like swipe left for business, swipe right for personal, and it will calculate it all for me. And at the end of the year, I can just go in and it will tell me how much was for business, how much was personal, and I can plug that into my mileage, and I can know how much of a deduction I'm going to get. Some people do a mileage log, so you can just write down every time you drove somewhere for business and what it was, how many kilometers you went, and at the end of the year, total your kilometers, and then make your calculation that way. But you do have to have it documented very well, your mileage for the government. So did I go over what's covered? Yeah, we did. Okay. So is everybody clear on what we need for mileage, or is there any questions? I know that was quick.
Someone asked, what is the app again for mileage?
Oh, QuickBooks Self-Employed, but there is like thousands of apps that you could use. Mile IQ is one, but my QuickBooks Self-Employed does my accounting as well as my mileage, so it all goes together. I'll go a little into QuickBooks Self-Employed in a few.
She says thank you.
Pardon?
She says thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Recording. Okay. So it can be when you're recording all your transactions, it can be done simply with a spreadsheet, or you can use an accounting software. It's completely up to you. So Wave is a free one. QuickBooks Self-Employed is about $10 a month. Or if you're wanting something more robust and you want to go with the accrual side, that would be your QuickBooks Online. I wouldn't suggest that for someone who's self-employed or sole proprietor because it's just way too much for you. And it will take extra time that you don't need to be putting in. Okay, so yeah, so if you're not interested in paying for the software, you can go with Wave or just use an Excel spreadsheet. If you're only got a handful of transactions every month, I would say spreadsheet's probably the way to go, because it was just easier for you, and you don't have to learn all the ins and outs of the app and how to put everything in. And I like it. I have way too many transactions to just use an Excel spreadsheet, or I would. Okay, so we do actually have an Excel spreadsheet for sale on our website. It's $7, and we have the HST calculator there as a free download. So if you're not sure if you're coming up to your HST and you need to get your number, if you use the calculator, it will help you track it so you know exactly when you need to get your HST number. I'm just going to switch screens here.
While you're switching screens, I have another question.
Okay.
Is $10 a month for QuickBooks Self-Employed for everything to do with all your accounting?
Yes. Yep. It will track. Basically, when you set it up, you attach your accounts to it. And if you're using a business account, all the transactions will move right into QuickBooks. And you just have to go in and say, okay, that was advertising, that was business income, and it will sort it all out for you. And your mileage will track in the background on your phone. And at the end of the year, you just go into the side and it's got reports and you're like, okay, this is how much I made and this is all my expenses, and it's all right there for you. It's pretty simple. It's where I started and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing ever. Erin, I see your smile. Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, so this is what, can everyone see the spreadsheet? Brianna?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, yes. Okay. So this is what our self-employed bookkeeping spreadsheet looks like. So it just gives you an example at the top, and you just fill in your information. So say you have a Shopify store, you made $10,000 in sales, and you mark it as sales, and you went to somewhere called Moo Juice. I don't even know what that is. And you had a meeting, coffee with someone. So that's meals and entertainment. And if you have different, so all the transaction types are set up on this tab. Is it showing the tabs?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So if you want to change the names of your accounts, you can on this tab, but those are your basic ones for your T2125, so you don't really need to. So just basically your monthly transactions come in and you put them in this and it calculates it all for you. If you have your home office, there is a tab for that and you put your square footage in there. It calculates everything for you so you don't have to do it. Income statement. And then if you go to the income statement tab, it basically tells you how much money you've made or lost. Hopefully it's not a loss. And if you're charging the GST, HST, it will track it all and put it in this tab. So when it comes time to pay your taxes, you know exactly how much you need to pay and how much has been written off. Okay. Is there any questions about the spreadsheet?
Can you do that spreadsheet monthly?
Yes, you can do it monthly, or you can, well, this is the one that's on our website. If you purchase it, it's yours, and you just, you can put your yearly in it, or you can make copies and do one for each month if you like. Okay, and I'm just going to go back. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to go over the different tasks that you should be doing for bookkeeping. So basically, if you have your accounting software set up or you have your spreadsheet, whichever you're using, it should only take you about 20 minutes a week, maybe not even, depending on how many transactions you have. And if you just keep on top of it, it won't become overwhelming. And at the end of the year, you're like, oh my goodness, I need 3 days to get all my stuff together for the tax man, you know? So you always know where you stand and how much you're making or not, and like where you need to be focusing on cutting costs if you need to. So if you take 20 minutes a week and just sit down with your receipts and put them in, it's just so you know where everything is and it's all categorized and you know you're up to date and you don't have to worry about it. People think that it takes forever to do this bookkeeping task, but really it shouldn't be more than 20 minutes a week. Just getting everything inputted. But if it's in your accounting software, you just need to go in and the transactions will already be there and you can just categorize them and then you're done. As well as if you have any extra receipts where you've paid cash or you paid on a personal account, you will have to manually enter those. But I suggest that you have a business banking account, a business bank card, and only use that one. Makes things more simple. So, okay, so receipt management. Everybody loves receipts. If you use QuickBooks Self-Employed, you can actually, they have a feature where you can take a picture of the receipt and it will read it for you and it will pop up with the transaction and you just have to say, yep, that's right, and hit okay. So if you had something that you paid cash with, you could just take a picture of it and QuickBooks Self-Employed will just do it for you. And it's super easy. So other than that, if you have your paper receipts, you can keep them organized monthly in little folders, or you can take pictures of them and link them to the transactions in your QuickBooks or Wave or whichever you're using. Or you can simply just have a file on your computer, take pictures of everything and just keep it in that file labeled in months. Because the CRA does need a copy. It doesn't have to be a physical copy. It can be a digital copy. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in your accounting software either, as long as you have it. That's all that matters. Okay. Oh, also when you have receipts that you need to put in to your accounting software, I would suggest writing a little note on them, because if you don't get to it for a week, you might think back and say, oh no, like what was I there for? What was this for? So if you just like wrote down like who you were meeting with or what expense that is, that will help you keep on top of it. And then you don't miss transactions that you could be deducting. Okay, so reconciling. So for, if you're going to use QuickBooks Online, there is a feature that allows you to reconcile directly in QuickBooks Online, and it will essentially pull your banking files and you just need to match everything up so the numbers match. But for us, self-employed and sole proprietors, it's basically printing out your bank statements and going over every transaction and making sure that that is in your accounting system or in your spreadsheet. We just don't want to miss anything at the end of the month because we don't want to lose expenses that we could be deducting. And that includes the ones that you've paid by cash. If you're keeping the receipts for them, you want to just double check that they're in there as well. So reconciling is basically just making sure that your accounting software matches what has gone in and out of your monthly expenses. Okay, so I have a sample balance sheet here. So for the financial statements for the self-employed and sole proprietor, it's these balance sheet and stuff like that is a little in depth, and you probably wouldn't use it too much. But I'll show it to you after I go through these next few slides because I have it on another screen. But it's probably not something that you're going to use. Okay, so this is a profit and loss statement. So my QuickBooks Self-Employed, this is our simple desk profit and loss from our first year in business. So QuickBooks actually generated this for me. I just went to the side and clicked reports and it pulls it up for me. So it tells me everything that I had for income, and then it shows me every expense that I used during the year and how much in expenses I had. So when I go to fill out my taxes, or when you are sending your information to your accountant, you print out this information, it goes directly to them, and they have everything that they need to complete your taxes. As well, you'll need to send your personal information because your personal taxes is actually done with the business taxes because you are a sole proprietor. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. Does anybody have any questions about the profit and loss? No? Okay, so you can actually pull this as well monthly or at any time. So you can see where you are standing profit or loss wise, because you just want to make sure you know exactly where you stand financially, so you're making the best decisions possible for your business. I would also suggest that if you are collecting HST, that you have a separate savings account, and any HST that you collect goes into that account in a savings for the end of the year when you need, or the end of the quarter when you need to pay your HST, because the CRA wants their money on time. Okay, and I think that was my last one. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. And I think I've sent everything to Brianna. There's a little checklist.
Yes, I have.
Okay, and I'm just gonna screen share that balance statement that I have. So this is a sample of the QuickBooks balance sheet. They have a template for you. So it's a little in depth. It just goes over every asset you have, every liability, and your owner's equity. So how much you own in the company. And then it will come out with a total of how much the company is worth. So you could just plug in your own numbers there and use that if you like. The link is in the presentation, which you will get after. So you can just take a look at that yourself if need be. And I think that's it. Is there any questions?
Yes, we have one from Angela. If we get QuickBooks Self-Employed, will we still need to use the Excel spreadsheet as well? Do you use both?
No, you use one or the other. It just depends on how you would like to go. Some people are a little old school and like to have full control, don't trust the technology quite yet. So you can use the Excel spreadsheet, or you can go with the QuickBooks Self-Employed, or Wave. Wave is free, but I don't think it has the mileage tracker or anything of that nature.
And also to you guys, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome just to unmute yourself and ask. That way I'm not reading them all. But I do have another one. Do you have spreadsheets for managing US income and US expenses? USD?
We don't have that as of yet. Sorry. We're dealing mostly with Canadian, so we hadn't branched out to US dollars yet. I could probably find you a resource though. If you leave your information for Brianna, I will look into that for you.
When I send out my email to everyone, I'm also going to add Jenny's information too. So her website, her email, her phone number. So you have many ways of getting hold of her. If you have any more questions at all, or you wish to reach out to Jenny to help with your business.
Oh, I was fast. I'm sorry. Sorry. Did I talk too fast?
Any other questions, guys?
Thanks, Janice.
Thank you everyone for coming out. If you missed part of the webinar, I will send you the YouTube link for the rest of this webinar. I should have it out for you by late this afternoon. Hope everyone has a great day. If you don't have any other questions, we'll stay on here for a little bit longer if you have more questions. Yes, QuickBooks is great.
Love QuickBooks.
They definitely have everything that you need depending on the size of your business. You're welcome.